Welcome to the Crack House Chronicles, your favorite true crime podcast. I am Donnie, and with me is a man who wants to remind everyone that coasters are for amateur drinkers who want to put their beer down once in a while. It's Dale.
Yeah, what the hell?
Dale's not setting a beer down.
No. It's like, I gotta need one of them cups to keep my drink cold for 12 hours. No, you don't turn it up and go.
That's right.
Them things are meant to tote a beer around, not to keep it cold for 12 hours.
Exactly right. What's going on, dude?
You, man.
No,
you, man.
not me, not me.
Same old, same old?
No, like I say, I'm just living in your shadow.
Yep. It must be awful thin.
Yeah. Yeah, like I say, Dale, don't throw a shadow anymore.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess it ain't the same old, same old. We got a hell of a show coming up today, I think.
Yeah, we do.
I'm really excited.
Before we get into that, you got any good shout-outs? Anybody want to talk about?
Just so happened we have some Apple Podcast 5-star.
5-star.
Yes. Check this one out. This is from our homeboy Bridge. It says, "Hi neighbors. This is our favorite podcast. We love your banter at the beginnings and episodes as well as the stories. I was excited to learn how nearby you are. We live in Mooresboro or
Mosboro, if you're from there.
Yeah, it's Mosboro. It's kind of like Cherville. Or Rolfton.
Yeah, or
all them.
Far City.
Yeah, Far City. Because, speaking of, let me finish and then I'll tell you. And he says, keep up the great work. The local episodes are always a favorite too, but we're really, they were terrible to happen, and we agree. But anyway, of course, and then have a nice day. What I was going to say is when I was a kid, I'd always hear people talking about going up to Far City. And I didn't know if that meant it was really far away or if it was really hot. Because, if they built a fire up there and be hot.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway. I just had to get that out. Anyway, check this one out. We also have, it's not a 5-star review, but it's a message that we got the other day, and this is pretty damn cool. This is from her friend Kimberly Walker Strother, right?
Strother, I think that's how you pronounce your name.
Strother, my apologies. Anyway, it says, "Hi," with about 15 eyes. Dale and Donnie and a heart. I don't have Apple, but I listen on my Samsung on podcast. I work a second job cleaning, and I was desperate for something to keep me entertained and distracted to clean all these offices up, and I found this one. The first couple of episodes had me worried, and then it became to where it's just you two, and I was hooked. I've listened to all the episodes, and I'm almost finally caught up. While I'm elated that I caught up, I'm also devastated. So, and basically, she's run through her whole damn catalog, Donnie. We're going to have to speed up.
We're going to have to do something 2 a week, I guess.
Basically, she says, I'm going to, I'm listening for 4 to 5 hours straight. I love true crime and love listening to you. Honestly, it makes my job less work and more fun. I've wanted to write you guys for a while, so today I did. And happy Father's Day to you both. I can't wait for more episodes.
Wow.
And, dude, that's what it's all about, right?
That's it.
Man.
That's why we are right here.
Thank you so much. That means the world to us. We really appreciate it. And, man, thanks.
Yep. I did message her back, and I told her we'd give her a shout out.
Oh yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did. That's awesome.
Here, help you guys.
Yay.
We'll give you that too. So yeah, thank you so much. That means the world to us, and that's basically why we're doing this. It ain't like we're making a ton of money, nothing, because we're not. But we have a lot of friends, and we're meeting great people every day, and people like you just make it worth doing.
Yeah, so we appreciate it a whole bunch. Yeah. Do we want to mention Bobby Mathis?
Oh, my bad. Yes. Today we have a special guest coming up. So we put out a thing on our socials asking if anybody had any questions they'd like to drop in on this interview. And we had one person who stepped up.
Yeah, shame on y'all for not answering.
And that was our buddy Bobby Mathis. And Bobby, we're going to send you something. I don't know what it's going to be. I'll find something. But we'll send you something. And we really appreciate you just stepping up and participating. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
And I hope you...
Hope you get your question answered in this episode.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And without further ado.
All right, Dale, you remember last week we covered Missy Bevers.
I do.
She was murdered there in Midlothian, Texas at the Creekside Baptist Church before her Camp Gladiator workout.
Right, very mysterious.
Yeah, and you remember at the end of the episode, we said we were going to try to reach out to True Crime Broad's podcast.
We got to get some experts on that.
Yeah, and we found these ladies. And I will tell you, man, they have done an in-depth dive into this lady.
Yeah, it's awesome.
The surrounding her case, the people involved, it just blows my mind the research they have done. And we had to reach out to them to get them on the show and pick their brain and find out what they know and answer some questions that we had going into us learning about Missy Bevers.
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
And they have went head over heels and been way beyond just try to bust butt to get here.
Yeah.
So it was really appreciative.
And they
If it's a word.
answered our calling, and they agreed to be on our show, and we have them on the show tonight, dude.
We are thrilled.
So we want to welcome Crystal and Renee, host of True Crime Broads podcast. Welcome to the show,
Welcome
ladies.
to the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having us on. We're excited.
We are excited to be here. Thank you so much.
We appreciate it too.
Yes, very much.
So you guys are right there in Ellis County, Texas. Is that right?
Okay, so I'm Renee, and I actually live in Waxahachie. Grew up in Red Oak, and so I live in Ellis County. Crystal lived in a neighboring city, and now she lives in a different area, but from the area, yes.
And how far are you from the church where this took place?
About 5 minutes.
Yeah, so
Wow.
even though she's in a different town, that church is 5 minutes from her house, because those small towns just all border each other down there, you know, and 1 minute you're in one town, then you're driving through another one.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're all real close together, all of them.
Mm-hmm. So this hit you guys pretty hard when this happened.
Yes. Me being from that area, but I'm about an hour north of there now, but it caught my eye because Missy was my age and her kids, all three of her kids are the same age as my kids.
Mhm.
And then Renee has an even more personal story.
I worked with Missy back in 2014. We worked for a company called Vault Denim, and I would often, usually about twice a week, go to her house to get inventory, because we would have like jeans parties and stuff. And so I'd go over there all the time and visit her. And so, or not visit her, but get the jeans and, do what I had to do. And it was just shocking when I found out that she was killed. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So it's not only just in your backyard. You actually knew her. So that's even very
Right.
personal, yeah.
Very personal.
So is this the case that kind of got you guys into true crime, or you guys are into true crime before this and just
It
decided
did.
to do
Well,
that?
we were into true crime, but we weren't into true crime at quite this level. It had never occurred to either one of us to have a podcast or anything until this horrible case happened. But after a few years of really diving into this case and trying to figure out what happened to Missy, who would do something, you know how bizarre this is. It's just insane. She walks into a church to teach a gladiator class and ends up being attacked by someone in tactical gear. I mean, nothing about this makes any sense. So Renee and I met in the Facebook groups that are dedicated to Missy's case. And we started chatting in Messenger, and like a lot of people do, but then we took it to the next level and we started meeting for lunch and talking about it. And we saw new people coming into the groups, the Facebook groups. And then we were kind of like helping them get up to speed on the case if they were new. And we just finally realized one day after a few years of this is that we have all this information. It would be cool to be able to maybe just share it on some platform where people could just catch up, and maybe it would also bring new people into the case that might be interested. And we really feel like the more people that are listening to it and talking about the case, maybe the right tip will finally come in, because it's been over 7 years, and
Exactly.
we're ready to see some movement on this case.
Well, I mean, you guys being from right there from that area, it's only logical for you to do this case and keep this story alive there in that area.
Yeah, we hope so. That's our goal. We're really, really trying to figure out what happened to this poor woman who was just trying to make some extra money for her family, teaching exercise classes. I was going to say at the crack of dawn, but it was before the crack of dawn. It was pitch dark outside.
Yeah.
And it's just everything creepy. It's like a horror movie. It was raining really hard. I mean, whoever went into that church, they really wanted to hurt Missy. I mean, it was a very unpleasant morning as far as pouring down rain, and it was still pitch dark at 4:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
It's just weird set of circumstances. And we do respect the people that we hear from who think it was a wrong place, wrong time. Renee and I lean toward it being targeted, that Missy was the intended victim. But of course, there's people who think that she walked in on a robbery, and we respect that too. But just from where I'm sitting, and Renee, we just feel like this person was after her.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very strange. I don't really buy the robbery deal either. That's a whole lot to go through to go in the middle of the night to dress up like that. If you're just going to rob something, I just don't see how that's...
Yeah, and I think another clue for us on that is that the perpetrator hangs out for half an hour without really doing any any burglarizing. They're just kind of walking around and whacking on some doors and peeking in some doors and hitting some things with a hammer, but no massive damage was done. So they kind of look like they're killing time.
Yeah, especially that part before they turn around and face the camera, they're hitting that crowbar with a hammer, and they're doing it so gently.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I just don't feel like they're really trying. And after being in the church, that's actually a utility closet that helps
the
toilet paper and paper
the door
towels.
lightly. Yeah.
And I'm like, they weren't even trying.
Yeah, I love the way you described that in your podcast. It cracks me up every time.
Yeah, I've said it several times. Sorry.
That's your signature move.
It is.
It's
really
awesome.
is.
Well, let me ask you this, guys. When I watched a couple of YouTube videos, you done a couple shorts, and there was one video that you had that you were behind the church and you showed the entrance to the rear of the church, and there were some steps there. You suggested that maybe the perpetrator had parked right up next to the steps to keep from getting wet, maybe pulled up in the yard of the church or something.
Or to hide a car, maybe.
Yeah, where those big trash bins are. That just kind of logically made sense to me. We haven't had that proven, but since it was, 287 is actually a highway.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a big highway like you'd see in Dallas, but it's a highway, and it has through traffic going in it. Semis going through there all night. So it's not a dead area. Like sometimes the media, the national news would kind of make it sound like this was desolate. It was out in the middle of nowhere. That's not really true. The truth is somewhere in the middle. It's definitely not a big city, but it's definitely not dead.
Right.
And so even though it's pouring down rain and everything, I think if somebody saw someone climbing out of a car in full SWAT gear and trying to get into a church, they would have probably reported that. Right. So I get the impression that person probably pulled in around. There's just kind of a big wall thing, if I remember correctly, Renee, that kind of around to protect those trash cans or to make them not be so unsightly. I just thought that would be a good place to park because we did get it confirmed that is the entrance that the perp went in. There was some confusion early on that maybe they entered through the kitchen, but we got that confirmed that they did enter that, where the steps are. And then there's a covering, which makes sense because it was pouring down rain.
Right.
It's actually kind of large area, so they could have actually went up there and changed or did anything because there's quite a bit of room up there.
Yeah,
good point.
And one of the videos that we do, you can see the area kind of in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just so wild to think that it was important enough to someone to hurt Missy that they got dressed up like that in the middle of the night and drove out there and parked and went through all that and broke in the church. It still boggles my mind, and we've been talking about this for 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that the car at the sporting good place has anything to do with this?
That's a question that we hear all the time. I'm on the fence. I think Renee leans toward it being involved. I could definitely see it going either way.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's involved. I guess because there's never really been any other reports of anything strange like that. I guess it could have been a one-time thing, somebody just pulling through, but it's just mysterious enough a few hours before the murder that I just kind of feel like it's connected. I think they might have went over, broke maybe some glass out of one of the windows, and then went over there and kind of sat and waited to see, are police going to come? Are they going to show, do I hear sirens? And then nothing, and they're like, okay, we're going to move forward with what we're going to do. That's just kind of what I think.
Yeah, you guys are kind of like Donnie and I. He's definitely on the broke the glass, went down there and hung out, and I'm kind of like, I don't know, could have been, could have not, it's just, but they were definitely acting weird in the parking lot.
I can definitely see it going either way.
Right.
Is the church, is it really visible from the sporting goods store? I mean, how visible is it from that area?
Is it a quarter mile? Is it 3 miles? We've heard it all.
It's a half a mile.
Okay.
It's a half a mile.
And it's catty corner across the street.
Right. And you can see it. So after the murder, my husband and I went over and we went and parked in the exact same parking spot that person in the Altima sat in, and looked in the rearview mirror, looked in the side mirrors, and you could see the church. Like you could see lighting, you couldn't see the whole thing.
Right.
Or you could turn around and look and see the church. Now those trees have grown up and some bushes and things like that. So it's a little harder to see, but actually in 2016 you could see the church.
Okay. And that would make sense. You really wouldn't have to see details if you're just waiting to see if if a cop came with lights and sirens. Yeah. But on the flip, but one thing that bothers me about it is the Ultima, the Nissan Altima was actually facing the wrong direction to be looking at the church. So I guess they would have to be looking through the side view mirror or turning around. I mean, those are kind of a couple of things. That and the fact that they intentionally picked a spot that had a street light over it.
Right.
I thought that was kind of weird because it's, if you're kind of doing something shady, it seems like you wouldn't want to be under a light because I think we all know it's harder to see out of your car when you have light than if it, I don't know. It just seemed odd. Those two things kind of make me hesitate and wonder if it's involved or not.
Mm-hmm. Kind of funny because with the lighting, it's harder for people to see in. You would think it would be the opposite.
Sorry. Have you guys watched...
But who knows if they knew that.
Watched that video that, what's the guy's name? Stoner? Something?
Aaron Stoner.
That Aaron Stoner did with the breakdown of that parking lot fiasco. What do you think about that?
Does he think it's involved, the Nissan Altima?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I believe so because he's tried repeatedly to pick out the letters on the license plate
Right.
Okay.
and connect it to somebody. I think he's put a lot of work into it, and he's done, he's done really well as far as his trying to figure this out. I think that's commendable. But he kind of lost me with the measurements of the nostrils and the eyebrows. That kind of threw me off. I don't know. I just thought that was kind of strange because you can't really see the nose and the eyebrows. Obviously, that's too small of a detail to me. So I don't know.
Yeah, with the slick back hair and this, I'm going, I don't see what this guy's seeing. But,
No.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean,
he put a lot of work into it. But yeah, I'm the same way. I don't know.
Yeah, I have a picture that I had a phone back then in 2016, and it had this unique feature on it, and it would screenshot in, I don't know how to technically say it, but like extremely fast. Like you could do a video and then you could screenshot, and it would just screenshot like 100 times in one frame.
And it wasn't blurred or anything.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
that's cool.
It was really cool. So I somehow got one good picture of the person in the car, and you can tell it's a man. You can tell they have on a hat. You can tell they have on glasses, maybe some facial hair, because you can just kind of tell where areas are darker. What else? A watch. They have a watch on, and they have kind of a skinny arm.
Wow.
So I don't know how I was able to get that, but I did. I didn't share it for years, right, Crystal?
Mm-hmm.
And finally,
we should send it to them.
Yeah, after 4 years, I finally did. And of course, there's people out there like, oh, that's photoshopped. I don't even know how to Photoshop anything.
So you had like a sport mode screenshot phone or something.
Yeah.
Burst.
Yeah, it's a really good one. It's the best one I've ever seen, and it wasn't because I'm talented. It's just luck.
Yeah, because you had a really cool, what's it called? The kind of phones you have? Androids.
Yeah, and the Android, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're Android people too.
Yeah.
So you guys actually got to go in the church and look around, didn't you? Yeah.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
We happened to be coming back from CrimeCon. It was in Austin that year. It was the summer of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And we got up and they were having a few CrimeCon kind of clears out Saturday night. Everyone flies home. There were some sessions on Sunday we thought we wanted to go to, but we got up and we just said, you know what, we're ready to head back. And then we realized it's Sunday. Hello. So we went and we sort of blended in with the church crowd as the church was getting out, because they really don't let people come in there and wander around. I think that they probably had an onslaught of that at the beginning and they put an end to it. So we just decided, if anyone at Creekside is listening to this, they're probably like, those little critters. But anyway, yeah, we did. We went and just kind of slipped in and walked around, and it was amazing to us. I think the biggest takeaway was how small that church is. It looks so big on the surveillance.
Really?
It really does.
Yes, it does.
We were
It is
shocked.
small.
You can walk that entire 4 halls, and I say 4 halls, it's just like a square, in less than 5 minutes, maybe even 3.
Yeah.
It was very short.
The way those
wow.
surveillance cameras are up in the corners looking down, it makes it look so big.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were shocked at how much smaller it was.
Yeah, tiny compared to what we were expecting.
Mm-hmm.
And y'all looked at some of the doors that the perpetrator...
We did a little bit of a measurement.
Yes, tell us about that. When y'all
yeah.
done some measurements.
Yeah, we did a little bit of a measurement. Yeah, exactly. At the what is that door called, Crystal?
A Dutch door?
The Dutch door. And compared my height, because I'm 5'2.5", to that door, and then of course the person that you see on the surveillance, and it hit me about the same as it did that person.
So yeah, depending on how their body is, because some people are long torso, short legs, and then some people are long leg, short torso. So assuming that their proportions are similar to Renee's, that person's probably on the shorter side of the height range that they've been giving. But hard to tell because they could be built differently. Maybe if it struck them right at the belly, then that's might be taller or shorter than you. Who knows?
Right.
Wow.
But yeah, the way
smart.
that door opened, it hit Renee at the same spot that it hit the perpetrator.
Wow. So I think you guys are divided on whether it's a man or a woman. Am I right?
No,
Renee
they're
and I think
98%.
Yeah, we're pretty sure we think it's a woman.
Okay.
Just because after years of looking at it, I wasn't there at the beginning. I used to think it was a guy.
Okay.
But as time wears on and as our shows wore on, I changed my mind. And the way the person is walking looks kind of feminine to us. And some of their maneuvers that they make look feminine. Some of their gestures, like kind of lightly tapping the wall when they walk down that hallway. There's especially one that Renee always points out is when they are messing with that one door and they're getting various tools out of their vest to mess with that door. They kind of pop their hip and he or she pops the hip out. And we just don't see men standing that way. Do you stand that way, either one of you, Dale or Donnie?
No.
No,
You don't pop out
we
your
would
hips.
say
No,
calling
see,
it like
that's
knocking it out of gear kind of thing.
Yeah. I actually tried to get my husband and my daughter's boyfriend at the time to do that. And it was so funny. We laughed till we couldn't breathe because they were trying to do that. And they couldn't even make it. They couldn't even pretend like they were trying to make them pop. They were like, I don't know. They couldn't do it. It was hilarious.
And that perpetrator definitely has a hip pop there.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's just a few things. And also the height range. Now, there are plenty of guys that are close to 5 feet, but just statistically, it's more likely a woman in that height range.
Right.
So we kind of landed on woman.
Okay,
think,
saying that, we go back to the photo you caught, and you said somebody with the glasses and hat and maybe facial hair. So does that make you think maybe that car was not involved?
He's talking about the Ultima.
Right. I'm sorry.
Your picture that you got.
Yeah, okay. I'm having a hard time hearing him, sorry. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that, in my mind, I think it's actually two different people. Because I think it's a man in the car, because their seat's kind of far back, and I what I see, I don't know that anybody could convince me it's not a man, because it looks, I mean, it doesn't even look like figures and splotches and pixels and all that. It looks plainly like a man with a hat on and glasses and watch, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think it's two different people. The person we see in the church and the person in the car is two different people.
Do you think it's possible there's two different people at the church?
Possibly, yeah.
One stayed in the car and the other went in?
Right. I see me and me and Crystal don't see the same on this, which is fine. But I see two different things in the church. I see two different boots. I see two different, like the one part where they walk around the corner and they kind of like, I think their foot kind of like sticks to the floor and it kind of squeaks. I think that person has on tennis shoes and it's the UA, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in the other ones, you can clearly see it more looks more like a police boot type, shoe or whatever. So to me, and their pants fall differently and everything. So I see something different.
I think Renee and I are pretty much in agreement down the line, except she's more convinced on the car being involved than I am. I'm about 50-50. She's probably, 80-20?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm just seeing one person, and I think that those surveillance cameras were low quality, and I think you can chalk that up to distortion, but Renee's seeing two different people. So those are probably the only differences. Everything else.
We're pretty much the same with everything else.
But you've been on the two-person thing a long time.
Yeah.
Because you were saying that when I met you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But, really, if you think about it, that would be a great way to do it if you dress the same, if you were in similar size. Wow. Yeah, police have never said that there was more than one perp that we're looking for, because they would release the video and say, if you know anyone who walks like this that could, blah, blah, blah. They've never said we're looking for two people, but then again, they may not have known, or they could just be doing that to throw us off. Yeah. But, they never have said that there's two people. The police haven't. Right. Speaking of video, now, we watched the YouTube thing, and the guy was saying that he had heard from... Brandon, is his name, right? Yeah, that's Missy's husband. Brandon had heard from him that there was definitely no video of the attack. Have you heard different? Right. Or no?
That's what we've heard too.
Okay.
And those cameras are motion activated, but our understanding is that they are placed around the entrances just to protect the church for, I guess, from people coming in or whatever. So we think, Missy was killed off camera. I think the big question is, did the perpetrator have the sophistication to know that they were pulling her into an area that was off camera?
Right.
Or was that just luck? We don't know that, but that's our understanding too. You do see Missy on the camera, but in order to protect her family, the police made the decision not to release any of the video with Missy in it.
I get it.
But when it does come time where she's attacked, apparently that's off camera.
Yeah, because they mentioned later that the perpetrator is seen leaving the same way they come in. So it tells us that the murder actually happened somewhere off camera, like she said, maybe in a room or something, and then they left and went back out the same way they came in.
Have you guys seen any more video than everybody else? So, because you've talked to FBI, the police, you've talked to so many people. Have you seen anything other than what they've released?
No, we haven't. We know that the forensic podiatrist that asked if he could, he contacted Midlothian Police and said, may I work this case? I helped in another murder case and helped to get a conviction based on someone's gait. So he came forward and helped the investigation out, and he describes in a couple of his interviews parts of the video that the public has not seen. And the way he described it was, you see Missy coming in, and she comes walking in a few steps, and then you see her jerk her head. So he said that she obviously heard something. And that's really, really eerie because...
Yeah, it gave me cold chills.
We don't know if she heard like a shoe squeaking on the floor or if that person called out to her. We don't know what she heard, but we also heard that from one of the family members that had talked to the police about the video as well. They confirmed that as well, that you see Missy turn her head not long after she comes in. So there was some kind of noise.
That gave me cold chills just thinking about that.
Yeah.
And
Me too.
The sheer terror that came over her after that.
Yes. Yeah, it was
thinking you're by yourself.
Yeah, thinking about what she went through. I mean, I had at the time I had a hallway that went down to my bedroom, and it was really long, and every time I was there by myself, I would really be really super paranoid and looking around, because it's scary thinking about.
It's terrifying to think about what she's going through. And I think that, her guard was down. She had done that many times. Yeah. She had unloaded her truck and gone in, flipped on the lights, gotten everything set up, and that morning it was pouring, so she was probably going to spend more time inside than normal. Yeah. And I think she had an agreement with the church where her campers were allowed to use the restrooms that were just inside that door. So, she was just probably business as usual setting up, and then that horrible person was waiting for her.
Oh yeah, I'm sure she was, really focused on getting stuff done because, it's getting time to everybody get going, and she's trying to get unloaded and get it going, and then come in the door and you don't expect anything, and like, wow.
What's one of the craziest parts of this to me is we found out there were two women who would routinely come in, and by routinely, I mean at this point it was every week. They would come in and they would start their workouts at 4:30 a.m. Mm-hmm. Now the class started at 5, but there was two women who liked to come at 4:30. And what happened was that morning, because of the pouring down rain, one of the women just said, I'm not going. This weather is horrible. Because it's an outdoor workout.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
And she was just like, not happening. So she rolls back over and goes back to bed. The other woman that goes at 4:30 had a flat tire. And by the time her son came and rescued her and switched the tires, she didn't get there till 5. What really just boggles my mind is what would have happened if they would have gotten there at their normal 4:25, whatever time. Would they have seen the perpetrator driving away? Would they have potentially interrupted this? Would they have gotten killed too? Could they have stopped it from happening to Missy? All those things run through your mind. I think the perpetrator probably didn't have that level of detail, that they probably didn't realize she had two people that came at 4:30. Because that was just a verbal agreement between them, you know what I mean? And I talked to the head of Camp Gladiator for that region, and she told us that, Missy would be setting up for her regular class at 5, and those two women would start working out while she was still setting up, and she would spot them and go, hey, good job, make sure you lift your, leg up a little higher there so you don't get hurt, that kind of stuff. but she would be setting up. So it's just really crazy to think that morning, coincidentally, they both didn't go.
Okay, so now you bring up something that I heard today. I actually listened to another one of your guys' podcasts, because what really got me and Donnie, we were talking about, like whatever, when he saw her, or he saw, the perpetrator or whatever, and then they went into the room or whatever. It was said that there was another video of her running out and then them coming after her or whatever. And we could never figure out how her being in such a great shape, whoever this person was could take her down. Even if she got a little bit of separation, she should have been able to get away. So today I was listening to your podcast, and I'm sorry, but they said she was shot.
Yes.
And that was something I did not know till today. And I was like,
unfortunately, we are 99.999% sure that she was shot. And
wow.
Early on, we always wondered why the ATF came out, because they were out there day after. They were there Wednesday. The murder was early Monday. And we were like, why is the ATF there? They had dogs sniffing and everything around the church. And now it makes sense, because we got some intel on the fact that she was shot. So, and yeah. So
knowing that's a big equalizer for even if the one-legged man thing was true. But also it would be, even if she had 3 people there, if he had a gun, it would be a whole different story.
Right, that's true.
Because everybody else is just thinking he has a hammer, or he. I keep saying he, but I guess I should say they, them, or whatever. But because
we do the same thing.
Yeah, it's just, but because that's what kept blowing my mind. I'm like, because this person is just waddling around, such la 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 la, and she's in such a good shape. If she got any separation at all, she should be able to just bolt and get away. But and then when I heard that today, I was like, holy cow, that really, that changes everything.
Yeah, and our understanding is when she did try to get some separation, that's when she got shot.
Right. Because somebody said, someone maybe threw the hammer. I'm like, come on. I mean, it's not Batman,
We've heard that. I heard you say that on the show, and we actually had heard that before, too, on the internet. Someone who said they had seen the video. We haven't had that confirmed, but that's interesting that you heard it, too. Yeah. Of course, when there's a high-profile case like this, a lot of stuff gets passed around on the internet, so... Yeah. Who knows? But yeah, we've actually heard that too.
We've heard hammer and the base.
Wow.
Well, and that would make sense, because it was confirmed in the CSI report that she was found surrounded by broken glass. But there was also apparently a kind of like those sofa tables, those long skinny tables. There was one with a glass top apparently that was broken in the struggle, so the glass could have been from that glass.
And it was never specified what type glass, right?
Right. Right. Correct. Yeah, wow. They just said they found her with broken glass all around her.
Right.
So, the first camper got there about what time? You think 5 o'clock?
There was a new guy who was going to start, and he was going to be a part of that 4:30 group, but he had never been there before. That was his first day, if you can believe this. And when this happened. And he knew Missy. He actually manages a local coffee shop. And he was coming in after being recruited by Missy. And he was supposed to be there at 4:30, but I think he was ran a little bit late according to the timelines that we've seen. He pulled up at 4:30. And he was just so confused because Missy's truck was wide open under the awning. He couldn't get in the door for some reason. And he couldn't get Missy to answer her phone. She wasn't answering texts or phone calls. So he was just waiting out there. I think he went back to his car. We heard different accounts of whether he waited under the awning or in his car. And but here, this part really breaks my heart too, is Missy had texted the two 4:30 women, those ladies that go early. She contacted them the night before and said, hey, I don't want you to be freaked out. The guy there's a guy coming for the first time tomorrow morning, and he's also going to come at 4:30, and he's a really big guy. Just don't worry if he gets there before I do. He's fine. Wow. So it just kind of it makes me really sad to think she was concerned about their safety and their,
Didn't want them to freak out and what happened,
and be worried, and then what happened to her.
And that's how they it ended up getting in the church, or he did, and everybody, was the one that had the flat tire ended up getting there at 5, and then they got in, and then they found her.
Let me ask you this. How much of a dark cloud does this have over Ellis County in that area today?
Huge.
Really?
People
still talk about it?
People talk about it all the time. you really can't find anybody, you can't find anybody in that town that doesn't know about it. As a matter of fact, my daughter and me went to a lady's house who was selling some really pretty plants, and we were just chatting with her, and sure enough, she ended up talking about true crime, and we started talking about the case, and she knew all about it. She was, you just can't find people that don't know about it and that aren't freaked out by it, and of course have their own opinions and, so forth.
Yeah, and it also, there's people who are still scared because, even if you think it's targeted, you're still thinking there is a crazy person on the loose because, just because they thought Missy had wronged them in some way doesn't mean they couldn't think that about somebody else because it's so crazy what they did.
There's a murderer on the loose, no doubt.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And a homicidal maniac. It's just a crazy person, obviously, just from watching the video. And it's chilling how, like you guys described, how she was just he or she was just kind of meandering around and messing with things. And then to think they just jumped into full murder mode when Missy arrived.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Seems like a total psychopath.
Yeah. What do you think about the gait of the perpetrator?
Do you buy the one-legged story?
This is one of my favorite parts to discuss.
All right, then.
The thing about it is, I think, and of course I don't know, and this is just my opinion, but I feel like I have put on my husband's boots many times to go out and check the mail because he would leave them by the door. He worked construction electrician for years. And when I put them on, I couldn't walk like I normally walk with them on. My foot would turn out because they were heavy.
Right.
So I feel like that's what this person is doing. They're trying to make themselves look bigger than they are. So they have on boots that are too big, and maybe even stuffed something in their clothes to make them look like they're bigger, like a bigger, broader like man. And I feel like, unfortunately, and the police didn't know, so I don't blame them because that's, you think what you see is what you see. But I don't think the gait is going to help solve this because I feel like the gait is caused by boots that are too big.
Yeah.
Very possible.
And even if the person does have an odd gait, it's probably not exactly that gait that you're seeing because we do both really believe that this is a woman wearing men's shoes or boots.
Well, and if they knew the cameras were there, because they're walking around kind of like I don't know if it really looks like they've been there many times, but they kind of knew her wearing, and maybe they'd walked around enough they already knew like you said, the 3-minute walk. But yeah, but I don't know. It's just, were they faking it? It would be really smart if they were, because I would like to see the video, not necessarily of the act that happened, but of them leaving. Were they running?
Too.
Was they going fast? Was they walking the same?
I always say that because they're going to have a different. They're going to be walking more purposefully after the murder to get the heck out of there.
Yeah,
right.
So it's like I was telling Donnie on that movie, Usual Suspects or whatever. The whole time that the main character that I think Kevin Spacey played, he had that weird limp the whole time, and then at the very end he leaves and he just puts his foot straight and walks right off, and they're like, "Wow!" So I'm like, "Wow, were they really just trying to fool everybody if they knew that the cameras were there?" Which would be very smart.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
man. This is great. I love it. You guys are awesome.
Yeah, we're learning so much stuff. I've binged some more episodes of you guys today, and you interviewed a lot of people and a lot of different people on this case. You interviewed, I think, AJ Tucker twice.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
What was your feel on AJ? What did you guys...
His wife has been probably one of the number one suspects that gets talked about on social media and the Facebook groups, and there's people to this day that still swear that she did it. Our understanding is from talking to someone who knows is that they were cleared, but they were questioned quite a bit. And AJ seemed sincere when he talked to us about off the air about how he just can't even understand how they got involved in this, and it was just the craziest thing and all that. But we tiptoed around him though because we didn't want to make him feel bad. So we had him on to talk about it, which is relevant to our show about self-defense. And so the second time we had him on, he did talk about the case some, and he just seems genuine. Now who knows? We could all be wrong. Of course, I'm always ready to be wrong, but I'm just saying that our impression of him was that he was being honest, and we talked to him quite a bit off the air, and he really just seemed completely flabbergasted that it went as far as it did. But it was also posted on social media early on that somebody had called it a tip apparently on his wife, and that's how this whole thing got started. And he had pictures on his social media of stuff that kind of looks like tactical gear, but he used it in self-defense, sparring gear, I guess you call it.
Right.
And so people just kind of, the imaginations, I think, went wild from that.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple people called in tips. And so the police were doing their due diligence. We don't know if they had anything else on them. That's just our take on it, of course. But then the FBI apparently did go by and pick up their trash. And AJ had posted on Facebook, hey, we had something really weird happen in our neighborhood. Be on the lookout. Somebody pulled up in a unmarked, what was it?
Black Charger.
It was something that sounded like an unmarked car. And he said they came and they took our trash and took off. And then later he came back. He goes, never mind, guys. I found out what it was. Yeah. And he goes, and he said, it's unbelievable. And I can't talk about it right now. But I don't know. He didn't realize, I guess, that it was undercover police taking their trash. But apparently they found nothing, and they did end up interviewing them quite a bit. So to answer your question, what my feeling is on him, I think he has nothing to do with this. He was actually teaching a class at the exact same time as Missy across the other side of Midlothian. So honestly, it would physically have been impossible for him to be there because he was setting up his own Camp Gladiator class, and it was his first day to teach for Camp Gladiator.
That is right.
He said, he was telling us that when he was at the end of his class, he said somebody came racing in from Camp Gladiator and said, "What? Are you okay? We're just coming to check on you. You okay?" He said, "Of course I'm okay. I'm right here. What's going on?" And they said, "Well, Missy Bevers," who he already knew. He said Missy Bevers was murdered setting up her class, and he said he was just mind blown.
Yeah.
I'm shocked at the people, and again, I understand that, it's hard speculating and so forth, but there have been people recently that have decided that they think AJ did it. In Reddit and Facebook and Twitter, all over the place, you see these comments, and it's just physically impossible for him to have done that. He would have had to have driven from his home in Mansfield to Midlothian, and then switched vehicles, switched clothes, and then get to his class by 5. That's impossible. So,
Yeah.
So, just a question that's kind of off topic, but not really. But when you say set up for these Camp Gladiator things, have you ever seen a class? Do we know what all is involved in setup? Because that's said a lot. She was setting up. He was setting up.
Right. Well, they do have equipment, and I don't know exactly what. I know that the night before Missy was killed, there was a couple of ladies commented on her post and said, "Hey, can you bring me some weights?" They didn't have any of their own. So, but she also set up other things. She had fire hoses that she used from the fire department, and she had all kinds of equipment. I just can't think right now what it was.
She had an amp, a table.
Oh, her iPad.
She had her iPad
to check people in.
Yeah, so people could check in, and I think maybe like a chair. I don't know. But it was just I think it was the same thing every time. There is a picture that we have posted where she set up at the convention center, and all of her stuff was there.
Okay. So
and then also the woman in charge of that area for Camp Gladiator, Missy's boss, she told us that they're actually required to show up 45 minutes before the class, or is it an hour? Yeah, there's some time period before the class they're required to be there, and she said we know that most of them don't do it, especially on the super early morning ones. They might not get there quite that early, but they're supposed to be there an hour early. I believe that's what she said. I'll have to go back and look at my notes. But Missy got there at 4:18, and her class was at 5, so she didn't miss it by much. But apparently that was their rule, the Camp Gladiator rules, that they had to be there that early.
And she probably would have been had the weather been a little bit better. It was probably a little rough drive.
4 o'clock on a rainy,
So that makes a little more sense to me, because this basically, I'm thinking I have no idea what these classes are. I haven't watched one, so it's not like they're all getting together and just kind of doing workout aerobic looking stuff. So they're using tools and props and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, like you said, so that makes a lot more sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm sure she had her mind on that. That's a lot of stuff to unpack, right? Yeah.
And it's just so commendable to be up at that hour doing anything productive, but also to be up at that hour in the pouring down rain, setting up an exercise class to help other people get in shape. That's just so amazing.
Well, her slogan was, "If it's raining, we're still training."
Yeah. She posted that the night before. She said, "Come on, we're gladiators." And then the meme, that's right. And she made it clear that she was still going to be there. So if this perpetrator was watching her social media, it was set to public. Right. And they would have known she's still going to be there.
Who could have targeted Missy? Because, I hate to touch on certain things, and Was there any talk of Missy or Brandon having extramarital affairs or anything? Anything like that going on?
The police actually announced that pretty early on. They had it in all the search warrant affidavits, which were released to the media. And so, of course, the media is going to take that and run with it. What's better than a story about a murder with something that salacious like affairs? They also uncovered that they were having financial problems. Missy's husband quite often will chime in and say that's untrue. They weren't having financial problems, but the police must have detected something in their communications where they were talking about money. So whether or not that's true, we don't know, but apparently there were affairs. We don't know to what extent. We don't know which one of them for sure was doing that. We've got some intel on that, but, of course that's always probably one of the main motives, besides money.
I just didn't know how much is in the rumor mill down there about that. If anybody I'm sure people talk about it and put their own twist and spin on it.
Right. Mostly Missy gets talked about, which is sad because she's not here to defend herself.
Exactly.
So she's the one that the rumors about the affairs get pinned on, but we've heard it could have gone both ways. We really don't have any information on what Brandon's situation was. It's never been discussed openly. But there have been talks, and there was times that there are search warrant affidavits that point to her talking to certain guys, but we don't know to what extent. They were saying there was flirtatious and familiar conversations. Well, that could be taken any different way.
Exactly.
Is that sexting, or is that like, hey, what's going on? You look good in your outfit today. Can't wait to see you at the gym. We don't know to what. Or on the continuum what that is. So that's just the way the police worded it.
Well, I guess everybody's just trying to find a reason why they would be targeted, and it's like if you spice it up a little bit with that makes sense to people. If, just a little bit of a mention of it, then they
I think that it's important to explore all, avenues on this. And of course, nobody cares what Missy did. She didn't deserve to be killed, and we just everybody I'm sure feels this way, that it doesn't matter what avenue it takes you on, just explore it and figure it out. Let's get this person brought to justice.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: how often do the authorities communicate with the public on this case? I know it's been several years now. Do they make an announcement every year on the anniversary, or
no?
Nothing.
Really?
They quit doing that
3 years ago. They did talk a little bit to one of the reporters 2 years ago.
That's true. Carl Smith, the chief of police, had a little.
Rebecca Lopez.
He did a little blurb with her. That's right.
But it wasn't really a statement. It was just answering a few questions. But they haven't actually approached the public since 2020.
Well, and they used to have a guy named Kevin Johnson that was sort of the media liaison. And when he left, he was also the assistant police chief, I believe. When he left, they never really had anyone fill that role of keeping the media updated. And that was probably intentional because they seem like they don't really want media involvement. So that's just our guess. But after Kevin Johnson left the force, there has not been that person that's updating the media.
Right.
Do you think if they've released some more of the video, that it would maybe help some to get some more of this perpetrator's video out there? Because I know there's a ton of more footage of this perpetrator out there.
Well, we've heard that perpetrator was dancing around in there for 28 minutes. And I realize that those cameras are motion activated, so we probably don't have 28 whole minutes of the perp. But if they really do have, they mentioned it in that very, very first press conference that happened the day she was killed. They said, Midlothian Police, Captain Spann said, we do have footage of the perp going down a long hallway after the murder, presumably to leave the way they came in. So that would be, like you said, that would be super useful to see that. And then our understanding, though, is that the other footage they have is more at a distance and they felt like it wouldn't be as useful. We've heard that. The police haven't made an official statement on that, but that's just things that we've heard from reliable sources, is that the rest of the videos, they released what was the most helpful, but we still want to see the perp going down that hallway.
Yes.
We have obtained or asked for records different times about tips that have come in through the course of, getting the billboard and things like that. And every time something like this would happen, or, it would always increase tips would increase.
Yeah.
So I feel like if they were to release a portion of that, it would just do the same thing. It would bring more people in. They would get reinterested in the case. They would, start thinking about it again, and maybe hopefully get somebody with the courage to come forward and, tell what they know. Because police have stated several times they do believe that this case will be solved with the help of the public. So.
Well, they ought to help us out a little bit.
Right.
Yes.
And Kevin Johnson, the man I was talking about that used to be the media liaison at the police, his line that he used all the time was, we're looking for that vital piece of evidence. There's that one piece that they're missing. There's one thing that's vital that they're sure that if the public would call it in, that they could solve it.
Yeah.
I think that if they would realize, and maybe they do, but if they, would think about it, given that little piece, even 10 seconds would just, regenerate people calling back in again, and that's what they want. So I think it would be beneficial, in my opinion.
Yeah, because they have that one video where it's almost above the door where they came in, and he's like, it just comes open, you can walk in. I'm like, just give me that going out. I mean, something.
Right.
Oh,
right.
yeah. Right. Whenever they have the weird box in their hand.
Yeah, a little white box.
Yeah. That's where you see the in my opinion, the police boots. If you look down at their feet, they look totally different than what you see when they're going across the floor towards that split door. To me, the boots look totally different there. They look literally like what you see a policeman wearing, the dark black or whatever.
On our Instagram page, and we'll send you these pictures, or if you I don't know if you've seen them on our Instagram, but if somebody that Renee knows actually just zoomed in on the perpetrator's feet in the church. And you can actually see, and this is just a regular person zooming in probably on an iPhone. This isn't anything fancy, but you can see the Under Armour emblem. You know how it's got the U and then the A under it?
Yeah.
You can see that on the perpetrator's shoes. And that's so interesting because that is what a lot of police wear for their uniform shoes are Under Armour, either the tactical boots or the regular, like we call them tennis shoes in Texas, but athletic shoes.
We call them tennis shoes.
We call them
oh, you do?
Yeah.
Y'all say it right.
Well, we might even leave the S off and it'd be like tennis shoes,
Tennis shoes, there you go.
Tennis shoes.
And that's perfect.
My sister actually did that. She did it from an Android phone. I don't know. She has the.
It looks really good.
She's the one that changed the lighting also on the car picture that I have, and it helped to me to be able to see different things. But that's the only changes. There's never been any actual changes to the picture.
Yeah.
Just the lighting.
Just the lighting.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you lighten something up, you can really see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's cool.
While we're sitting here
But
talking, I just Googled.
We think they're wearing Under Armour shoes.
Under Armour tactical boots with a zipper, and they do make them.
Yes.
So, with the logo on the heel.
So if this person was had some contact with someone in their family or a close friend that was a police officer, then that would make sense. If they could get the rest of that gear, they could certainly grab their Under Armour shoes.
Right, for sure.
Right.
So, of all the people that you guys have talked to, is there anybody that you've talked to that just gave you some kind that just made your jaw drop? Did you ever get anything like that and go, holy?
Yeah, we've had so many people come forward and talk about one particular person that after a while, you just kind of go, wait a minute, maybe this person might be the perpetrator, because we had people from totally different walks of life come forward, like people who don't know one another and they don't run in the same circles were coming to us and saying, hey, we think this person did it. And it was the name matched. It was the same person. And that person was also talked about early on in the Facebook groups. So that's another thing to consider. And that person also sent us a message.
Yeah, tell us about this.
Famous?
Yeah.
Tell us.
This was in February 2021. We had never mentioned this person on the air, and no one had mentioned her on our show. We're talking zero mention of her. And she sent us a Facebook message on our True Crime Broads Messenger that said, "Stop stalking me."
And we've honestly never stalked anyone. That was just silly. We were like, what?
Well, and my mother had recently passed away. I really wasn't in the headspace of even thinking about this. And I remember walking through my house and I saw a notification. I looked at my phone and it was her. And she said, "Stop stalking me." And so I immediately called Renee and we were just like, wow, what does that mean? Why is she worried about us? It's just kind of interesting.
Yeah, because she had never been talked about. And then she quickly blocked us. So
I know. I was hoping that we could chat with her, but we did tell the police about that because that could have some significance to the case, of course. So we'd let them know.
Excuse me while I run and bolt my door. That's what
That's how we felt. No kidding.
How comfortable you ladies, and maybe the police have actually talked to the perpetrator and interviewed him at one time. Do you think it's possible?
I think so.
Yeah.
They interviewed a lot of people early on, and if this person ends up being the one, she was interviewed back then in 2016.
Yeah.
And so were a lot of her acquaintances. So we don't really know where they stand with her today. We've seen some public records that would suggest they looked at her again later. We just don't know what's going on. The police have been incredibly tight-lipped in this case. Of course, they need to be because they can't give away what they have. But, I mean, they're not even saying, hey, we're getting closer to an arrest, everyone, it's cool. Or, I mean, they're giving zero hints. They could be, we don't know if they're totally lost or if they're about to arrest someone tomorrow.
Right.
We just don't know.
Yeah. Was this person involved with Camp Gladiator in any way that you know of? Or
Her very best friend attended Missy's classes.
Oh.
yeah, she would have had very good information on how classes work, where they hold them at, how it works as far as start to finish. She would have had that information because her best friend attended and was friends with Missy.
Yeah,
Wow.
there's that connection, and it's just kind of weird. It's very hard, though, to break down the motive and try to figure that out. But, I mean, at the end of the day, is there ever a good reason to kill someone, especially in this bizarre manner? So the person might just be off kilter, and that might be the answer. That's hard to think about because I think those of us that aren't murderous want to know why would someone do that.
Yeah, we want it to be a reason.
Yeah, we need a motive, but
Your good reason and their good reason is totally different.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Wow.
Crazy.
You keep giving me chills.
Yeah. I can't.
Yeah, you definitely hit the nail on the head when you said jaws drop, because we definitely, if we would have been on video, it would have been, we were like, whoa.
That was definitely
we didn't know,
That definitely turned our day around. But, it was interesting to say the least for her to say, stop stalking me, because we just couldn't even imagine where that was coming from unless she was hearing our episodes and inserting herself into them somehow, because we'd never used her name, and
never
at that point in time no one had talked about her on our show yet.
Right, never.
It happened way later.
And then once we started with that first initial episode where someone named her, it was a domino effect. Other people started contacting us and saying, hey, I just wanted to set the record straight on XYZ. Can I come on? And we're like, yeah. And then the next time it was the same thing. So,
but even though they wanted to set the record straight on what that guy said, they still thought it was her. They were just saying, we disagree with these little details that are here. So, we just kind of wanted to interview everyone. We asked the police to please interview these people, and they were coming to us and saying, look, the police are not contacting us, and they were wanting to talk. So after several months, we just decided to go ahead and interview them and hope for the best. And
let's define several months by 10.
Wow.
Crazy.
I was trying to be nice.
Yeah, I'm not that nice.
But so we just thought, well, we'll give them a platform. What the heck, and we're not saying we know they're right or wrong. We have no idea who killed Missy Bevers, and we're as confused as anyone else. But it was nice to kind of finally hear from people who thought they might have it figured out and had their own, what they thought were good reasons to think that. But I think what really got me is what I said earlier. There was people coming to us that didn't know each other, but they had come to the same conclusion. I thought that was big.
Very much so, yeah.
Yeah, that's very big.
And them being this tight-lipped, they could really have somebody in their sights and just don't have enough to do anything.
Oh yeah, probably so. I wish that people would come forward, and we hear all the time, hey, I'm afraid to call in, or I don't want to get involved or whatever, but hey, look at this or whatever. And we try to tell people, please know that you can remain anonymous, and there's nobody going to know your name. They legally can't if you do the anonymous Crime Stoppers. Yeah. But we do wish that somebody would come forward, because we know there's somebody out there.
Somebody knows something. Yeah.
You ladies started a billboard. Tell us about that.
That started, we started our podcast in February of 2020. And the billboard went up in September of 2020. We just wanted a way to, get, obviously with podcasts, you get to reach a lot of people, but we wanted another way to reach the public. And we felt like a billboard would do it. We reached out to our listeners, and they were excited. They were like, let's do it. So within a short time, we funded it and put it up.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I think, didn't you say, I think I heard in one of your episodes that Crime Stoppers took it over and was help funding
They
it?
did.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
right.
Yeah, that changed in May of 2020. Was it 2022? Yeah, 2020. I don't know why I got confused on that. May of 2022, our listeners paid for the artwork for the new billboard, and Crime Stoppers took it over, and now they have it in Midlothian.
Wow, that was a game changer there, wasn't it?
Right.
Yes, yeah, it was really good. I mean, it's the biggest case.
Easier for you. Renee was the one, because she's local down in Ellis County, doing all the coordinating for the billboard, and it got to be really hard. So
Yeah,
I'm really glad that Crime Stoppers took that over, to get that off your shoulders. That was a lot. But we had so many generous listeners from all over the country, all over the world, actually, that would donate to the Missy's billboard that was there locally in Ellis County. That was really, really nice.
Yeah.
It really showed how much people care.
Yeah, it was really smart of you guys, because you can reach people around the world doing this, but right there in town, it's like if it's anything like here now, this case is a lot bigger than we've had some local stuff, but we have people we're friends with that had no idea we did a podcast, but putting that sign in town, that's something that's really going to get attention right
people
there in the heart of it.
That, right.
Yeah, and we asked about what the statistics were, because we wanted to make sure we didn't want to take, or have people donating and it wasn't doing anything. But every time, especially around different times of the year, but it would, it would definitely spark, interest, and people would call in tips and stuff. So we were happy.
Didn't Crime Stoppers say that tripled their tips on the Missy Bevers case when it went up? Yeah,
Amazing.
We were really excited about that and also every once in a while, most people knew it was unsolved, but every once in a while we would meet people from Ellis County, and they'd go, "Wait a minute, that case isn't solved yet."
Yeah.
They
had no idea.
Yeah, they'd kind of forgotten about it over time, and then couldn't believe it was still not solved. So it was nice to jog people's memories and have that up, just in case the right person saw it. It had some little tip, know.
Probably everybody loved it except for Creekside Church.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
I said probably everybody loved seeing the billboard except for Creekside Church. Do you think is it?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Because that's just
we do feel for them.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, yes.
Such a bad thing.
Yeah, it is a bad thing.
Yeah, I kind of wish you guys would go back out there and do a longer video than those shorts around the church and stuff.
We'll have to do that.
I have some pictures. And I have some video, but it's,
Yeah, we should go up there and do some video.
Yeah, you should go back to the sporting goods store and do the whole deal. That would be awesome.
Right. That would be.
You mean the whole drive? Is that what you mean?
Everything. Because like around here,
I actually have one, don't I?
Oh,
yeah, did you put that? Well, I don't think we have it on a YouTube short. We should add it.
Yeah. I have a video where I left my husband drove, and I videoed from the SWFA to the church, or from the church to SWFA, something like that.
Right. Yeah, because we around here locally, there's a case of a missing girl. They should agree, and we would listen to podcasts on that, and people would have everything was not really as it is. So we did a video just to go and show, like, look, this is how far it actually is. This is the woods that everybody, because they would say, it's like really thick woods, and like, look, it's not really like that. So it really helps for people who are not right there in town to actually see, like you said, that the church is really small, and to us it looked like a really huge church.
It did.
So I think that would be really cool.
Yeah.
There's a part of the surveillance footage from SWFA where the car is driving around, and since you mentioned this, I wanted to point this out. And there's a part where the vehicle turns their lights off and then on and then off again, and everybody's like, "Ooh, they're signaling somebody." I mean, I guess it's possible that they are, but I will tell you, they're at the back of SWFA facing the opposite direction. So they're not signaling anybody at the church.
Right.
Yeah, good
so
point.
that's kind of what you're talking about. People don't know that because they're not over there singing.
Yeah, exactly.
We should get over there and do some more video. That's an excellent point.
Yeah. Because when I realized that, the way they were facing the complete wrong direction. So.
And SWFA is the name of the gun store, the sporting goods kind of / gun store, where that's the parking lot that they were looping around in. It's kind of weird to think if that is the perpetrator or if that's someone connected to the perpetrator. It seems really strange that you would pick. I mean, everyone knows that gun stores have amazing surveillance.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Kind of strange place to hang out before a murder.
True.
And isn't it really weird? And we come across this, not a lot, but more than you would think, that how on this certain night the damn surveillance cameras are not working in the parking lot.
Oh my gosh,
That
yes.
makes me so mad.
And we used to think it was surveillance cameras, plural, but we found out later from people who work at the church that it's actually they only had one outdoor camera and it happened to be malfunctioning. And we wondered if maybe, we used to wonder years ago, like, well, I wonder if the perpetrator, disabled it, but apparently it just wasn't working and that was something that happened periodically and they just hadn't gotten around to
So do
fixing
you
it.
think there's a chance that whoever's in the car dropped off whoever by the church and then went to the gun store?
I don't know.
No, because
Is-
it was a different time. I wouldn't think so. Because it was 2 hours earlier.
Yeah, that's true. But
Yeah.
I think he meant like to test it.
Oh,
well,
I don't know, maybe.
is there proof that there was actually a car parked outside?
Say that again.
Do we actually know that there was a car parked outside where they went in the door? I'm just
No.
thinking maybe somebody.
Well,
Go ahead.
police did say that there was a car seen in the distance,
Oh,
but it was
that's right.
so far away that they couldn't. They said we don't even want to try to make out what kind of car because it's so far in the
Yeah.
distance you can't see it.
That's
so
right.
there was a car.
Kevin Johnson early on, that media liaison I talked about, Kevin Johnson early on released to the media there in a couple of articles that were locally, was it WFAA or something? It was some local, couple of news channels. And he said that there was a car seen parked off in the distance, but he wasn't even comfortable. They weren't comfortable guessing the make or the model. It was that.
Or even the
far
color.
away.
Yeah, they couldn't tell.
So, we do think the perp went in a car simply because, it was such a horrible rainy time at the time of the murder. It would be impossible to walk there or ride a motorcycle without just being a total mess. But, it's possible they got dropped off, but
Yeah, I was
Leave it
just
out
trying to
the
find a
back
way to
in the
tie it
woods.
together that would make sense. And yeah, you're probably right.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
The Ultima circling that parking lot was around 2 something a.m. And then the murder was at 4:20 ish. So,
Right. It was a big
it's
time
quite a bit
difference,
of,
right?
kind of far apart in time.
Yeah. I would like to touch on one thing, if you don't mind.
No, touch
Go
it.
right ahead.
I know that a lot of people always will say, "Oh, it was the father-in-law. He walked just like the perpetrator." And we did a couple of episodes on it. He wasn't out of town while this was going on. He didn't even live in town. Number one, and number two, it was proven that he was out of town or out of state in California. Oh, well, I tried to say
He was in
Colorado.
Oceanside, California.
Yeah, he was in California, and he wasn't able. He had a condition, and I know y'all tried to pronounce it ankling spondylosis or something like that.
I would have to read it. I don't know.
That's as close as I can get. I think it's
Very good.
ankling spondylosis, and he couldn't jerk his head up like the perp did when they opened that split door. So I wanted to touch on that because there's always.
Oh, that's probably the people who aren't following the case very closely, but see a couple media things. Those are the people that really think it's the father-in-law.
right.
Right.
We hear that more than anything, honestly.
Yeah. Well, they had gone to talk to the media when the bloody shirt got delivered to the local dry cleaners.
Right.
And then the dry cleaner lady heard that his last name was Bevers. So she gets on the phone to the police and says, "We've got somebody with the last name of Bevers here dropping off a bloody shirt. You need to come figure this out." You
Right.
know? So they did, and they did their due diligence. And of course, it did end up being that it was dog blood. It was a true story that they had told, but they had to check it out. But they wanted to get ahead of that story. So Missy's husband and dad, her father-in-law, they went and talked to the media and had a little press conference at Midlothian Police Department. And when Randy Bevers, the dad, turned around, he kind of waddled away on camera, a lot like the perpetrator walked. So I really don't blame people for thinking,
Right.
I bet he did it. I bet they were in on it together. So none of the evidence points to that, especially with him being thousands of miles away. But, that's a really big rumor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been proven that Randy wasn't even in town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it wasn't real smart
He
to
was in
drop off a
he
bloody
was in
shirt.
a camper. Yeah, he was in a camper with his wife in Oceanside, California, and they were retired and traveled a lot.
Yeah.
That's where they were.
Yeah. So how confident are you ladies thinking this case is going to be solved?
Well, I think it will be eventually.
Yeah.
I just don't know when or how or any of that stuff. But we are hopeful. We haven't given up, even though it's tempting after this length of time. But
You guys are
I
surely.
think that it will be solved. I think that's what helps to keep us going, helps us to keep encouraging people to come forward. And I do hope that the person that it knows something hears this and will come forward and get the courage to do that.
Yeah.
Because I really think it'll be solved.
Well, you guys surely are towing the line for this. I tell you, you've done a hell of a lot of work. I mean, your body of work speaks for itself. It's amazing to me.
Yeah, we wanted to
Thank
do this
you.
case because we have a big listenership from Texas. It's crazy the number of downloads we get from Texas for some reason.
Awesome.
Yeah, and we felt like, well, we need to do this and then reach out to you ladies to get you on here to just do our part to help keep the story going, keep it alive, and just keep it out there.
Yeah, and you know
Yeah,
so
We really
much.
appreciate
yeah,
that.
we're so happy you asked us to be on, and your show is fantastic.
Well, thank you very
And,
much.
yeah, we'll be sharing your show on our Facebook and on our social media everywhere, Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've doing a great job. We loved your show. It's so entertaining.
Well, thank you very much. We try to make it well-rounded. We try to make it light, but we do hit on the crime part of it, and we try to
We don't usually hold back a lot, but we also don't really go crazy either.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's
That's
perfect.
good.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
and make it respectful for the victims
You
and
know,
the families too.
Yeah, and I want to ask you
Right.
something that we always get asked. How did you get your name, your show name?
Yeah.
Well,
I
they're
was
broads and
wondering.
they're
Yeah, I know, but
Definitely.
a lot of people will hear true crime broads and they'll be going, oh, especially today when people are so woke.
Oh. I was wondering where you got your podcast name. I misunderstood what you said because you guys are so like clean and fun, and there's nothing about a crack house comes to mind when I listen to you. Where did you get your name?
well, this is Donnie. When I started the podcast, the guy that I'd started with, the girl I was dating, it was her son-in-law, and he lived in a house that was pretty run down,
Okay.
and we used to joke around with him, hey, let's go back to the crack house and hang out for a while, and
Okay, that makes sense.
yeah, and we just joked around with it, so we just called
That's
the place he
hilarious.
lived the crack house.
And actually, the house on the
that's
logo,
great.
the old house on the
I
logo
figured
is
it had
there.
something to do with before, like, the first 15 episodes. Yeah. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, our name came from me and Crystal were talking about doing the podcast, and we were trying to pick a name, and I had come up on a name generator, and it popped up and said "Broads of True Crime," and I was reading it to her.
And then she was going down a list, just reading them, and I was like, oh, nah, that's boring, nah. And then she goes, True Crime Broadcast, and I thought she said True Crime Broads, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah.
And then she goes, no, she goes Broadcast. I guess the phone cut out right then or something.
Yeah.
But then we started laughing, and we were like, yeah, let's just stick with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
it's pretty
great.
cool. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's great.
Broadcast is pretty cool, actually. Either one would have worked, yeah, because I was like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And we like the TCB, taking care of business.
Right.
I didn't even
Yeah.
realize that when we did it. My husband's an Elvis fan, and
Elvis,
he was
yeah.
like, TCB. That's what Elvis had on the side of his plane.
Gotta get
taking
that
care of
lightning
business,
bolt in
so.
there, babe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
That is awesome.
That is very awesome.
Well, guys, we certainly appreciate you being on the show. Is there anything last thing you want to add about Missy
Anything we
Bevers?
missed, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, just call in those tips. Renee, what's the Crime Stoppers number?
It's 972-937-7297. PAYS pays.
Yeah. And we will certainly put a link with your stuff in the show notes for this episode and all your information about your podcast and numbers that people can call for tips and information.
Yeah, and it's been very,
Thank you.
very
We
informative.
appreciate
You
that.
guys really filling in a lot of holes and telling us the stuff that we didn't know even after we tried to search. And I'm so glad we run up on you guys because it's just been
Me
great.
too. I'm so glad you invited us on, and we'll definitely tell all of our listeners to go check y'all out.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, you ladies have a good night.
Thank you.
Man, again, I want to thank Crystal and Renee for being on the show and
Wow.
giving their insight and their knowledge on Missy Bevers.
Kudos to those ladies, man. They have kicked some ass. I mean, 100 episodes and, man, filling in so many holes and such a wonder. I mean, it's just wonderful to talk to.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Hopefully we can have them back on the show again and maybe talk some more
Yeah.
about this. Because there's so many unanswered questions in this case, man.
Yes, and it was, even in our episode we did, it was just like mystery after mystery after mystery. And then talking to these ladies, they've talked to so many people and they have so much information to give. And they're just busting their ass, and all they're trying to do is keep this case relevant and keeping it in everybody's minds. And I mean, being such a personal connection, all they want to do is get her solved. And damn, if we don't, we want to help them.
And I will put a link to their podcast in our show notes.
Damn right.
Yeah, and we'll put it on our socials for you guys to go check out, because they have done some work.
Yes.
No doubt about it.
Yes. And it needs to be heard.
Go check them out. All right, man. It's been over an hour.
Yeah.
We're going to get out of here.
Great show.
We want everyone to be safe. Please be careful and always be aware of your surroundings.
Because the next episode could be about you.
This is the Crack House Chronicles.